This is Benny, a charming yet seemingly unintelligent black boy, consistently receives low scores on his class tests, becomes laughing factor for his class. He believes himself to be the least intelligent person and confides in his mother about his inability to improve. However, his mother holds a different perspective. She continuously encourages him, assuring him that he too can accomplish great things in life. This is the remarkable tale of an ordinary individual who defies all odds and achieves the extraordinary, despite enduring mockery and racial harassment from friends and teachers. He perseveres and accomplishes feats that only a genius could. His story commences within the confines of a classroom, where, as expected, he receives a 0 on his test. A girl remarks that he has obtained nothing, but the class teacher mishears it as 9. While other students score above 20, the teacher appears content with Benny's meager score, considering it an improvement by his standards. The class erupts in laughter upon discovering Benny's marks, as if it were a routine occurrence. Unfortunately, the mockery does not end there. Benny becomes the target of constant ridicule, followed not for celebration but for all the wrong reasons. A group of bullies shadows his every move, subjecting him to relentless torment. Understandably frustrated, Benny's anger boils over, leading him to strike one of the bullies with a lock in his hand, causing the boy to bleed. The principal summons Benny's mother to his office, warning her about the incident. He also presents Benny's report card, which is equally concerning for the young mother, as he fails in almost every subject. These bullying incidents significantly impact Benny's self-confidence. And his thought process, Bernie repeatedly expresses to his mother, Sonia, that he lacks intelligence. However, Sonia serves as a wellspring of motivation for both Bernie and his older brother, Curtis. One day, Bernie musters the courage to ask his mother for assistance with his studies. Unfortunately, Sonia evades the situation by claiming she needs a new pair of reading glasses. Unbeknownst to Bernie, Sonia discovers that he has an issue with his eyesight, which hinders his ability to read small words. Once Bernie acquires his glasses, a remarkable transformation occurs. His academic performance improves, evident in his class tests and spelling competitions. Bernie attends a Sunday morning sermon at the church, where he encounters a minister who possesses exceptional oratory skills and serves as a great motivator. During his speech, the minister shares a story about a doctor. As Bernie listens, he begins to envision himself as the doctor, bravely combating a pirate. This imaginative exercise unlocks a whole new world of learning and personal growth for Bernie. Excitedly, he returns home and shares his newfound aspiration of becoming a doctor with his mother. Bernie overcomes his previous disbelief in his own intelligence, and a new vista of life unfolds before him. However, Sonia is not entirely pleased with the situation. She notices that her son spends a significant amount of time watching television, which saddens her. Consequently, she decides to seek help and visits a psychiatric facility. There, she confides in a doctor about her fears and anxieties. Sonia reveals that she was unable to attend school and was married off at the tender age of 13. To her dismay, she later discovers that her husband has another wife and child from a previous marriage. Despite this, Sonia remains in the marriage due to her concerns for her son's upbringing. However, upon discovering her husband's involvement in drug dealing, she decides to leave the marriage and raise her boys as a single mother. Her life becomes challenging as she takes on the role of a cleaner to support her family. Unfortunately, she keeps her truth hidden from her children, which takes a toll on her mental health. The constant fear and anxiety begin to consume her, leading to depression. Concerned about her well-being, her doctor suggests that she be admitted to the hospital for a few days. Although worried, she ultimately agrees. Before leaving, she entrusts her boys to the care of an elderly woman and asks them to focus on memorizing their multiplication tables. Despite their protests, the boys have no choice but to comply. Upon arriving at the hospital, Sonia discovers a letter from Bernie, filled with spelling mistakes but deeply touching. This emotional moment overwhelms her. Meanwhile, Bernie's academic performance improves, and he achieves an impressive score of 24 out of 25 on a class test. Excited, he rushes home to share the news with their caregiver, Scott, only to find his mother back home. Bernie embraces her, proudly shares his progress, and shows her his excellent marks. Sonia is visibly proud and happy, continuously motivating Bernie and supporting his growth. In the meantime, Sonia manages to find cleaning work at a kind and knowledgeable person's house. She is amazed by the vast collection of books in a massive room. Returning home, she finds her boys are watching TV. She turned it off and agrees to let them watch TV if that the boys should visit the library to read 2 books every week and write a report on each of them. She also states that the boys can only watch 2 television programs per week after completing their homework. The boys appear frustrated, but they heed their mother's advice. They enroll themselves in a library and cultivate a reading habit. They also begin to learn from television, watching a quiz show to expand their knowledge. This newfound love for learning immediately pays off for Bernie. The teacher selects a rock and asks the class if anyone knows what it is, and no one except Bernie, who seems uncertain, knows that it is obsidian. Bernie goes on to explain the process of obsidian formation, surprising the teacher with his depth of knowledge. The teacher asks Bernie to speak with him after class, commending him for unlocking the power of his brain. Bernie continues to excel in his class, particularly in spelling, where he wins the spelling competition. However, the class teacher appears unhappy. However, she has no choice but to announce that Bernie is the winner. She emerges as a racist at the annual award ceremony. The school's principal declares Bernie as the best student based on his overall performance. Bernie's mother and brother, who are in the audience, appear just as proud as Bernie himself. Bernie receives his certificate, but the racist teacher takes the microphone and makes a statement that reveals her deeply ingrained racist mindset. She suggests that the other students should feel ashamed because, despite being a black student raised by a poor single mother, they couldn't achieve as much as Bernie. Unfortunately, she fails to recognize Bernie's talent beyond her own racist views of life. Bernie's mom is deeply affected by the incident, so she decides to enroll him in a school where his talents will be valued regardless of his skin color. She manages to get him admitted to a predominantly black school, hoping it will be a welcoming environment for him. However, Bernie faces bullying from a fellow student because of his old and unfashionable clothes, which don't align with the trends of his generation. Surprisingly, Bernie responds to the bully in his own language, and they end up becoming friends. This new friend is a fashionista, always dressed in fancy clothes and a stylish hat. This creates a sense of inferiority and insecurity in Bernie, leading him to ask his mom for money to buy a new outfit. Although his mom doesn't have much, she reluctantly manages to get some money and buys Bernie a new pair of pants. However, Bernie is disappointed with the shabby-looking pants and argues with his mom. He wants clothes like his fashionista friend, but his mom disagrees, believing that people who focus too much on fashion lack substance on the inside. This disagreement angers Bernie, and during an argument, he grabs a hammer that his mom was using to fix a window and threatens her. Thankfully, his brother comes to the rescue and intervenes. Bernie then falls into the wrong crowd, influenced by his fashionista friend, who introduces him to a gang, where he purchases a knife. During an argument, his friend insults him. Bernie reacts by taking the knife and stabbing his friend. Luckily, nothing serious happens as the knife was already broken. Filled with fear, Bernie runs away from school. This turns out to be a blessing in disguise as he escapes from a toxic and harmful friendship. Moreover, he realizes the negative effects of anger and learns to control his temper. As a result, he earns a scholarship and gets admitted to a prestigious college. There, he meets his girlfriend Candy. However, Bernie is worried about his studies and future. He dislikes attending lectures and finds it difficult to adjust to college life. Bernie confides in Candy, expressing that he is only good at reading. Fortunately, Candy supports him and suggests that he can study on his own. Determined, Bernie dedicates himself to studying day and night. Among all the subjects, chemistry troubles him the most. He studies so intensely that he starts hallucinating, imagining the chemistry professor writing formulas for him on the board. His hard work pays off in the exam, and he performs exceptionally well. As a result, he decides to pursue a career as a neurosurgeon. He sets his sights on Johns Hopkins, the most prestigious institution in the US. However, the competition is fierce, as they only accept 2 resident students for their neurosurgery program. Bernie is determined to be admitted to Johns Hopkins and doesn't apply anywhere else. During his interview, he impresses the doctor with his confidence and passion for becoming a neurological surgeon. When asked why he chose this field, Bernie explains that he finds the brain to be a mysterious organ and wants to unravel its secrets. He believes in the power of miracles and wants to be a part of making them happen. His response leaves a lasting impression on the interviewer, and he is granted admission to Johns Hopkins. Bernie continues to excel at the institution, despite facing criticism from some of his peers. One senior doctor, in particular, questions his abilities and makes racially charged remarks. However, Bernie remains focused and determined to prove himself. He embraces his role as a resident doctor and strives to make a difference in the field of neurosurgery. At there they also called him Dr. Carson. An emergency situation arises, and the patient urgently requires surgery. It's a matter of life and death. Unfortunately, there are no available doctors to attend to the patient except for Dr. Carson, who is a resident without a license to operate. Despite the risks to his career, Dr. Carson takes the bold step of performing the surgery and successfully saves the patient's life. Later, he is summoned by his senior doctor, fearing he may face reprimand for his actions. However, to his surprise, the senior doctor appreciates Dr. Carson's courageous act of saving a life. The hospital continues its operations as usual. In another instance, a young couple arrives at the hospital with their daughter who suffers from frequent seizures. While other doctors believe she is only partially conscious, Dr. Carson suggests a hemispherectomy, a risky procedure that involves removing a seizure-prone area of the brain. This procedure could potentially result in paralysis or loss of speech and motor abilities for the child. He reassures the parent that the child's brain has an incredible ability to recover, with the healthy cells taking over the functions of the diseased cells and restoring neurological function. However, he acknowledges that this is a risky endeavor, especially since he has never performed this operation before. Despite the uncertainty, he accepts the challenge to cure the child. The night before the operation, he appears anxious and kneels down to pray. Finally, in the morning, he carefully operates on the child. The operation is completed, and now it's time for the moment of truth. The anesthesiologist tries to bring the child back to consciousness, and everyone is on edge. Every passing second feels tense as the child doesn't respond. Eventually, she is moved to the general ward. Dr. Carson briefs the parents, explaining that it will take some time to determine if she can speak or move. However, like a miracle, the child calls out to her mom and dad. Dr. Carson successfully overcomes the first of many challenges. This remarkable incident garners media attention, and during a press conference, he proudly shares the success and the patient's improved health. He emphasizes the miraculous nature of the brain, which made this outcome possible. This hemispherectomy procedure becomes the preferred method for future cases. While he achieves professional success, his personal life takes a bitter turn when a tragic incident occurs to his wife's pregnancy. They lose their child who is stillborn. The husband gives his wife some time and stays by her bedside. However, his wife insists that he go to the hospital and continue with his duties. Reluctantly, he agrees and goes. Overwhelmed by the tragic loss, he breaks down. His mother consoles him and reminds him that he can still make a difference in many lives and achieve his goals. The next morning, he resumes his duties as usual. The most challenging operation of his career awaits him. He has been invited to Germany as a consultant to separate conjoined twins. The case is extremely complex, and initially, he is hesitant to take it on. However, he is renowned as the best child neurosurgeon in the world. He decides to take the risk and dedicates countless hours to research and preparation. Finally, the day of the operation arrives. The children's parents travel from Germany, and Dr. Carson, along with a team of 50 staff members, prepares for the surgery. They ensure they have alternatives for every machine they might need. They practice for hours to ensure that no mistakes happen. This case doesn't allow any room for even a single mistake. 2 teams of doctors are preparing for the surgery to take care of 2 children separately. The operation begins at 7:15 in the morning and involves cardiothoracic surgeons. To prevent the children from bleeding out, the blood circulation to the brain is stopped through a cardiac operation. Then, the process of separating the brain starts. Dr. Carson has only 1 hour to complete this task. If he takes longer, there's a risk of brain death, which would be a failure. However, he manages to finish on time, and the entire process takes a long 22-hour period. Afterward, Dr. Carson meets with the parents and shares the news of the successful and miraculous operation.